lot of people have been confused in how to determine your color season. I have been reading some comments and I have seen some similar mistakes when it comes to the 6 color aspects and how to determine your primary and secondary characteristics. It's probably due to the amount of information that was in that video. It was a lot of information and in a short period of time. I can't explain every single aspect of color theory in one video while also trying to keep it short so people don't get bored. Because of that, I have decided to break up some concepts into shorter videos. In my 12 seasonal color analysis video, I explained the 3 color dimensions, which are hue, value, and chroma. While 4 season color analysis only focuses on temperature and value, 12 seasonal color analysis adds chroma. If you understand color theory as an artist, a painter, a designer, those are the 3 dimensions of any color that exists. For you to determine which season you fall into, we need to find the settings of your natural coloring on each color dimension. These are your 3 color aspects. One of the 3 aspects will turn out to be your primary color aspect, which is the most important factor of your coloring. That means that your coloring will sit on one of the extreme ends of that color dimension. Based on the 3 color dimensions, your primary aspect will be one of the following 6: warm or cool, light or dark, muted or bright, which is chroma. On this color dimension, you will need the most extreme version of a color. Even the medium neutral level will not look good on you. For example, if your primary color aspect is warm, neutral and even neutral warm colors won't do anything for you. Only the warmest colors will flatter your appearance. The same can be said for any other primary characteristic. For example, if your primary characteristic is dark, the darkest colors of the color wheel will flatter you. So our analysis will focus heavily on finding this primary color aspect, as the other 2 tend to fall in place once you find the first. Your primary color aspect can only be one of the 6 that I said before, and it should be fairly easy for you to notice it. So if you cannot clearly identify with one of those color aspects, discard it as your primary characteristic. For example, I am a dark winter. My primary characteristic is dark and my second characteristic is cool. The first aspect of my coloring is how dark my features are. My secondary characteristic is cool, so it means that I have cool undertones. I've always struggled in the beginning to find my undertone, and at first glance you can't really tell if I have cool undertones or warm undertones. I have been confused with both before, so I discard warm or cool out of my primary characteristic because I can't identify those immediately, because they're not the most obvious part of my coloring. Your secondary color aspect significantly influences your coloring. On this dimension, your coloring will sit on the extreme end to the midpoint of the spectrum. But the most extreme version of a color will be too much for you. For instance, if your secondary aspect is medium bright, the most saturated and vibrant colors will swallow you up. Your best colors will be saturated rather than muted, but they won't be extremely bright and vibrant. The third aspect doesn't have much impact on your coloring. On this dimension, your coloring will be on the low to medium spectrum. Your third aspect will be value or chroma, but it cannot be hue. To sum up, what you're going to do is the following. First, identify the color settings of your natural coloring. Match these settings to a color season with similar settings. I will insert an example of my season and the settings of dark winter so you have an example for it. Once you find a season that has similar settings to your natural colors, this will be your season, and this season will contain those kind of colors which are most similar to your own coloring and therefore will harmonize with you. Bear in mind that although we will analyze each color dimension separately, in reality they are interconnected. Warm colors are inherently light, where cool colors are naturally dark. So if your natural colors are warmer and lighter, it will also be brighter. This will result in spring coloring. When you darken a warm color, it becomes more muted. If you're warmer and darker, you automatically become more muted. This would be the sign of autumn coloring. Similarly, if your natural coloring is cooler and darker, it will also be brighter, and this will result in winter coloring. And then if you lighten a cool color, it becomes more muted. So if you're cooler and lighter, you will automatically become more muted. In this case, your coloring will be of summer. To recap, this is where I see people make the most mistakes when trying to figure out their color season. Your primary characteristic is one of these 6. Warm or cool, which is hue, light or dark, which is value, muted or bright, which is chroma. Think about this. When you look at yourself in the mirror with no makeup on, do you clearly notice 1. The warmth or coolness of your coloring? If you can't tell if you're warm or cool right away, then discard these as your primary characteristic. 2. How dark or how light your features are. If you can't tell, then discard these as your primary characteristic. 3. How bright or how muted your coloring is. If you can't tell if you're muted or bright right away, discard these as your primary characteristic. Your secondary characteristic can only be one of the following: neutral warm or neutral cool, medium muted or medium bright. This is because, as I explained before, if your secondary characteristic is warm or cool, it will be more in the medium spectrum and not in the extreme end of that characteristic. The same goes with medium muted or medium bright. Your secondary aspect is not on the extreme end of that color dimension. Only your primary characteristic will be on the extreme end. And your third aspect will be either value or chroma, but it cannot be hue. Let's go over the characteristic of each season. Spring is warm, light, and bright. Bright spring is bright and warm. True spring is warm and bright. Light spring is light and warm. The first characteristic mentioned will be the primary characteristic. Summer is light, cool, and muted. Light summer is light and cool. True summer is cool and muted, and soft summer is muted and cool. Autumn is warm, dark, and muted. Soft autumn is muted and warm. True autumn is warm and muted. Dark autumn is dark and warm. Winter is dark, cool, and bright. Dark winter is dark and cool. True winter is cool and bright. And bright winter is bright and cool. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, go and watch my other videos. I hope this information was useful, and I will see you in my next video. Ciao!
La 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 la.